Well, hello, and welcome again to the 2012fad.com. I'll be your host for this evening, and my name is Charlie Bluehawk. Last night, we talked about Betelgeuse, a fairy tale, and how, roughly, I believe my memory tells me that Betelgeuse is a star 524 light years away from Earth, which means that any light we see from Betelgeuse is from the past, 524 years in the past. And Betelgeuse, according to H.P. Lovecraft, is where the ancient Old Ones were imprisoned by the Elder Race. The Elder Race was a race of giants. Basically, they had the mentality of very practical engineers. They were very good people, very compassionate, decent people, but when they saw a problem, they just looked at it as an engineer would look at it. Excuse me. Without much in the way of artistry, but brute force got the job done, got the job done effectively, and the problem was solved forever. The ancient Old Ones, so my theory goes, in this fairy tale, were Satan, or Yahweh's first attempt to create life on her own, just as her lover, God, Amalek, created life on her own. But being the devil, being lazy, being arrogant and stupid, she didn't actually create any life worth living. She created monsters. And these were monsters that were so huge, they were basically gigantic diseases miles wide. And blubbering, thoughtless, mindless creatures who only could destroy. So good on for Satan. She created monsters fitting her character. But if the ancient Old Ones were imprisoned inside of a star, Betelgeuse, as H.P. Lovecraft foresaw, and Betelgeuse exploded, it would have released these monsters, these titans. If you look in Greek mythology history, we have stories of the titans, also monstrous, gibbering, mindless, destroying creatures, basically diseases, viruses, fungus, miles tall. And they were finally imprisoned by Zeus. But since they were immortal, created by Satan herself, they couldn't be destroyed, but they could be restrained. But if Betelgeuse exploded 524 years ago, that means that the ancient Old Ones, these things, these monsters, have been free. And taking the fairy tale one step further, the children of Earth, who have been leaving this planet, this Earth, for the last 2.5 billion years, have been at war. It also explains why our masters, who in the great scheme of corporate management, which is what we should think of this thing as, it's the business of hatred, they're the most junior corporate management imaginable. And that's why they have this obsession here with us on this world. And this is not fantasy, this is not fairy tale, this is fact. They're genetically modifying perfect life forms, you, me, bunny rabbits, spiders, sheep, and creating monstrosities, horrors. The chupacabra comes to mind. Why would anyone do this? Well, when you're junior management in a corporation, you want to emulate the boss, which in this case, the boss of this particular corporation, Hate Incorporated, would be Satan, Yahweh. It also explains why our masters, junior management, are terrified of any stories of giants. And again, I say giants, you laugh. There's no such thing. Well, actually, you can go on the web and look up giants. That's it. You'll find some really, really interesting stories hidden away, buried by the hysteria of mainstream media. Giants have existed, especially in American culture. The Native Americans have stories to this day of 14-foot-tall giants, red hair, pale skin, who were degenerate and would steal their women, their children, and their buffalo and eat them. And eventually the Native Americans hunted them all down and killed them in self-defense. Now, if it's a story and it's not true, and somebody, just used Photoshop to create skeletons of giants just for fun, who cares? Ignore it. Go away. It'll go away. But the hysteria of mainstream media that accompanies stories of giants or the explosion of Betelgeuse, the hysteria to try to downplay these stories and call them false and fraud is unbelievable. It's the same kind of gibbering madness I saw in New Zealand. They're terrified. Why? If it's just a fraud. Because our masters are just soulless creatures. In this case, soulless means that the souls they had, well, for lack of a better term, they've been eaten. And now their bodies are just puppets. So somebody has to control the puppet. So where's the puppeteer? Well, if the ancient stories of the Christians and the Hindus are correct, God, or the gods, the good ones, drove the bad gods, the devils, into hell, or in this particular case, outside of our universe. Western scientists have finally come to the conclusion that the people in the East have known for 100,000 years, and many religions, and I'm not pro-religion by any wild stretch of the imagination. I'm pro-history. But religions have known that the universe is a bubble. And inside the bubble is theoretically heaven, and outside the bubble is definitely hell. So our masters, these soulless creatures, some say they're a race of reptiles. Don't know. But something without a soul controls our planet. All you have to do is look at the newspaper or watch the television and know that this makes no sense at all. So trying to put facts together from a history that's been stolen from us, our masters, junior corporate management, have worked so very hard to destroy our history, to hide it away from us. You know, if you can get into the Vatican Library, you can find the true history of this world, because the Jesuit order, which is the original CIA, in fact, the CIA of today is just a pale imitation of the Jesuit order. The Jesuits have been raping the world of any and all information of our true history for hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years, in a variety of different names. And so tonight, I thought we might chat about I am. This comes from the sentence I am. I am myself. I am no one else. And this really, I think, again from my point of view, I think this should be made one of our mantras. The first mantra is, I listen to what you say, I watch what you do. The second mantra, if I could be so bold to suggest, is I am. I am myself. I am no one else. And this comes from a very, very, very old story, or part of the story, the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is the Hindu holy book. It's spoken of as a religious document. To me, the Bhagavad Gita is history. And it requires you to actually read something and believe it verbatim. It's not a homily. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a teaching tool for the very young where we, make up pictured images of things that never happened. From my point of view, I don't believe in religion. I believe in history. You can look this up, the Bhagavad Gita. There's a story within the Bhagavad Gita of a man who is confronted by a god. And being a fairly smart fella, he realizes she's a god. He doesn't ask, what are you? He asks, who are you? And she answers him, and she says, I am Shiva, destroyer of worlds. As you are now, I once was. As I am now, you may one day become. That's really interesting. Now, in the Christian Bible stories, I think it was Moses encountered God. Moses says, who are you? And This being of energy says, I am that I am. So why do you suppose, or what do you suppose, makes a God? What is the definition of God? And why would our masters, Junior Corporate Management in Hate Incorporated, Satan being the CEO, why would our masters not want us to be ourselves? And again, this is something you don't need me for. You can look around your world and say, how or why is it necessary for us all to be the same? Why cannot we be unique? Why can't we all be different? Why can't we just be ourselves? I am. I am myself. I am no one else. Why is it important to our masters that we are all the same? We're cookies out of the same cookie cutting machine. We're identical. If you go to a doctor, which I don't recommend, you go to a doctor and the doctor doesn't treat you. The doctor treats the so-called disease. Now, does the doctor bother to learn about you and your lifestyle? You go into the doctor and say, doctor, I don't feel well, my stomach hurts. What does the doctor do? Oh, you're a stomach pain. Well, I have a prescription that the drug company representative gave me for a drug. Take this, goodbye. Because you're not a person, you're a disease, you're a symptom. If the doctor bothered to ask you, well, you only got that stomach ache when you ate at a particular restaurant, the doctor would say, don't eat at that restaurant. He could charge you the same amount of money, but he wouldn't get kickbacks from the drug company. So why is it important for our identities, our individual identities, to be destroyed? Because then you would not be yourself. You would not be uniquely you. Again, why is that important to our masters? Well, if our masters are parasites, and from what I can see they certainly are, they give nothing to the world except the only thing they can, hatred. If our masters are soulless, that means, by definition, a soulless creature has no influence on the universe at all. It means that if our masters are soulless creatures, something somewhere has to be controlling them like a puppet. And if the ancient writings, the ancient histories are true, God, the good God, through Satan, the bad God, not into hell, but out of the universe, out of the bubble of energy that Western scientists finally admit our universe, where you and I live, exists. So outside of the universe, I'd say that was hell. But if our masters can reach into the bubble, they can't actually go into our universe, they can only reach in and influence. That means that they have to remove the souls of the people that they inhabit, possession, and then take control of them like a remote-controlled car and drive it from outside the universe. You and I, being natives of this universe and having our own souls, you and I, simply by existing, create the universe around us. You can look this up in quantum physics. Quantum physics says that you can affect the outcome of an experiment simply by observing the experiment. So if I look at an experiment, I don't know, 2 rats in a maze running the race, this is a simplified explanation, my very presence will affect which rat wins the race. I leave, you come in, you observe the same experiment, 2 rats in a maze. Since I'm not there and you are, the outcome of the race will be different. Why? Because I'm not there observing now, you are. Now if neither you or I are there, then there will be a different outcome, because now no one is observing the event. It means very, very simply that you and I, simply by existing, create the universe around us. And by you and I being ourselves and no one else, the universe is that much richer for it. I mean, how unbelievably dull, how gray, how lacking in color the world would be if we were as our masters wanted us to be, all the same. We wouldn't just be different shades of gray. We would all be gray. And the world would be a dead place. I am. I am myself. I am no one else. So what makes a god then? Let's go back to Shiva. I am Shiva, destroyer of worlds. As you are now, I once was. As I am now, you may one day become. That pretty much is the answer, I think. What makes a god? Gods are themselves. They are no one else. They know exactly who they are, and they accept themselves for who they are. They listen to themselves. They listen to themselves. They listen to their bodies. They listen to the world around them. They listen to the universe. And if you're quiet enough and still enough and comfortable enough with the fact that you are yourself, you are no one else, then they can see, they can feel, they can access the knowledge stored all around them. Because all around us, you and I, and we've talked about this before, all the knowledge of this universe is stored around us. You and I live in an electrical generator. That's what the universe is. It stores and creates energy. But it also stores and creates knowledge. And where does that knowledge come from? It comes from you and I. What is your body? Your body is a collection of cells. Every 7 years, your cells only live 7 years. Every 7 years, the cells in your body change. They die, and they create a new version of themselves, a replacement. You live on as yourself. You're no one else. But the individual cells in your body die, and new ones are born. The universe goes on as you and I die and are replaced by someone else. But the universe continues. Whether you and I come back or not, that's a different question altogether. So why do our masters fear us knowing that we are ourselves, that we are no one else, that we create the universe around us simply by thinking, simply by being? Our masters know that you and I were created by God, whatever God it was, male, female, whatever or whoever they were. We were created by them because Shiva told us that. As you are now, I once was. As I am now, you may one day become. Free will. Will you accept yourself as yourself and no one else? I am. I am myself. I am no one else. So our masters know that you and I can grow. We can evolve. It's free will. We have the choice to accept ourselves as we are, know that we are unique unto ourselves, and see where that goes. They can't. Our masters can never evolve. They can never grow because they're outside of the universe. They are in hell. They can only influence you and I through the one thing they can bring into this world, into this universe, into this bubble of energy where you and I live, and that's hatred. It's also why our masters, junior management in the corporation known as Hatred, Inc., it's why our masters are using the most obscene technologies to foul our world, to bring hatred, to bring war, anything to stop us from being ourselves and no one else. It's why they're using technology, or trying to use technology, to artificially elevate themselves into being gods themselves. Now, we've talked about this, you and I. Their harp weapon. They believe, I don't know why, that they can lure Satan physically to earth, imprison her on earth, again using the harp weapon, and using the same technology, raise themselves up to take Satan's place. Now that's a crazy plan. I don't care if you believe in religion or God or Satan or anything. That's a really bad plan. Let's say it's a corporate takeover. It's more easy to understand. How is junior management going to overthrow the CEO when they lack the knowledge and the experience for that position? It's the same problem Satan had going up against her lover, her girlfriend, God. God had the experience, the knowledge, and was willing to put in the effort, the work, to create the universe, to create you and me. Her lover, Satan, didn't want to be bothered, couldn't be bothered, didn't want to make the effort, just wanted it given to her, and that was it. Didn't quite work. She didn't know enough. That's why Satan is outside the universe in quote-unquote hell with whoever her followers were. Sadly, the more I think about this, the more it explains that, you and I are in a war that's millions of years old. We're the children caught between squabbling parents, God and Satan. Truthfully, God simply should have wiped Satan out, but she was in love with her. What was she going to do? She couldn't destroy her, so she put her outside of the universe that God had created. Again, I'm not religious, but these are the only terms I can think of that I can make you understand what I think I'm talking about. God, Amalek, the one true God. Satan, Yahweh, the bad one. Our masters, junior management, they can't evolve because, again, they're locked outside of the universe, and you can only evolve when you're inside, physically and mentally, and God, forgive me, spiritually. They only have a physical presence here, our masters, by remote control. Again, eating the souls of whatever poor reptile they found, and using them as puppets to influence us here. And please don't laugh. You and I have way too much reptilian DNA in us to think that this is funny. It makes me sick to my stomach to think that you and I are more closely related to reptiles than we are to monkeys. Frankly, I'd rather be related to monkeys. But the truth is, you and I are not. We're more closely related to reptiles. So this isn't funny, and it's not religion. Hopefully, it's history. But again, the choice is yours. You have to decide. Because you know the difference between right and wrong. No one has to tell you. And it doesn't matter whether you believe in Satan or God or anything, or reptiles or little gray aliens or whatever they're calling themselves this week. You know the difference. I can't tell you. Nobody can. What I can tell you, which I know for absolute fact, is that I am. I am myself. I am no one else. Who are you? The ancient Celtic blessing that I use here, I think that's what this means. You are yourself, you are no one else. I am that I am. I am no one but myself. And the ancient Celts had a nicer way of saying it. May you live as long as you wish. May you love as long as you live. For the 2012fad.com, This is Charlie Bluehawk. The 2012 Fad is brought to you by Coffee and Blood, Love Letters Between the Dead, a series of 5 erotica horror novels about a fallen angel fighting his way back to regain his own soul, and how the CIA war against the human race. Their black magic captures and traps him in the body of a mind-controlled slave designed to hunt down and to kill their god, their Satan.